Well, I'm an American from Kentucky, where they have the bourbon whiskey named after the French kings. In fact, I come from Louisville, which is a city named after Louis XIV. And I even once created I'm trying to give my French background in this, because my family comes from Italy, so, but I even created a superhero back home for my city of Louisville, who, when it was chest, he had the fleur-de-lis. So that's my French connections. But my grandfather came from Italy and started a construction company around the turn of the previous century, and so I grew up in a family, a construction family, and I always knew I was going to take over the construction company when I was the oldest male Rosa. So I knew what I was going to do for a living, but because I had a sister who collected or hoarded comic books, and she was like 11 years older than I was, so from the moment I was born, I was surrounded by thousands of the most popular American comic books, which of course in those days in America, as they are now in the rest of the world still, Karl Barks's Ducks were the most popular. So I grew up with those, and I was a huge comic fan, and even though I knew I was going to take over the family construction company, I spent my childhood creating comic books for my own amusement, and then in high school I always do comic books for my friends, and in college I did the newspaper comic books, comic strips and the newspaper political cartoons, and then after college I worked in the fanzines, and it was all hobby. And then in 1987, 15 years after Donald Duck Comics had disappeared from America, they ceased publication. A tiny company run by friends of mine, comic collector friends of mine, started up, and I knew that was my chance to write and draw one Uncle Scrooge adventure that I dreamt of doing since my earliest memory. And like I say, these were friends of mine, and so I did the story for them, and it was received so well by the few aging Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge fans in America that I said, well, I'll do another one, and then I did another one, and within a year I had decided to liquidate my grandfather's 85-year-old construction company, which is actually kind of sad, and go to work creating Donald Duck comic books and Uncle Scrooge adventures, and then the story gets much too complicated. But within 2 years, I went from working for the world's tiniest Disney publisher in Prescott, Arizona, to the world's biggest Disney publisher based in Copenhagen, and then that was 25 years ago, and now here we are talking about my life with Karl Barks's Ducks. I guess that's who I am.